Hi, I'm Lisa Crosta from Crescent Harbor Private Wealth, and today we're going to talk about Social Security. It's a topic that all my clients ask about, really, regardless how much money they have or they've earned or where they are in life. They just want to know what benefits they're going to be eligible for and when's the best time to claim them. So, we're going to start with finding out what your Social Security benefits are worth. The best way to do that is if you don't get those papers in the mail anymore, which many people don't get, is go to ssa.gov. Make sure you're on a .gov, a government site, to see how much benefits you have accrued. The website's great. It'll show you what your benefits are at age 62, which is generally the earliest age you can claim, up until age 70. And it'll show you some of your work history in there as well. So make a point to get on, create an account, so you can see what your benefits are. Now, how do they calculate the numbers? Your benefits are based on your highest 35 years of earnings. So you have to have worked for at least 10 years to be eligible, but they average the highest 35 years. So keep in mind, if you haven't worked for 35 years because you're looking early on to retire, or maybe you took time off to take care of a family member, or go back to school, or take care of kids, you may not have 35 years of earnings. You may say you have 25 years. If you continue to work every year that you work, say you work that 26th year, when they do the calculation to figure out your benefit, you're going to kick a zero out of that average because you didn't work for, say, 10 of those years. And now you're going to put a figure in that number. So every year you work, you can increase your earnings and potentially kick out some of the zeros that might be in those 35 years of looking back at your work history. Everyone's different. Some people say, how much will my benefits go up if I work again another year? It just depends how many years you've worked so far. But keep in mind, they're going to look at 35 years and you have to have worked 10 in order to be eligible. Now, when do you collect? The earliest you can collect your retirement benefits generally. Now, we're not talking about somebody who's a widow or has a child that's a minor. So generally for retirement earnings, you can collect as early as 62 and as late as 70. You don't want to collect any later than 70 because there's no benefit to collecting later. There's no increase in the benefits. 62 is the earliest you can collect, and it will be a reduced benefit. So the benefit reduces every month for every year that you collect early. So if you collect at age 62 and you were supposed to retire at 67, it's about a 30% reduction permanently throughout your years. So you do want to keep that in mind when you're looking at your benefits. Now, when is your full retirement age? Anyone born 1960 or later, their full retirement age is age 67, and that is the year that they can begin collecting full retirement benefits with no reduction, even if you continue to work. If you're born between 1955 and 1959, that's when they started pushing the retirement age from 66 to 67. So you'll have to look it up. It moved 2 months by every year in that little 5-year increment to get to everyone born after 60 being full retirement age 67. And again, the full retirement age is important because that's when you get no reduction in your benefits and you get the full amount. Now, if you decide to wait a couple years to collect your benefits, there's an automatic increase of 8% a year. So if your full retirement age was age 67 and you wait till age 70, 3 years, you get a 24% increase, 8% times 3 years. So it's pretty meaningful. So it's a big decision when you're looking at your numbers to see when you're going to collect, and if you're going to put it off, where you're going to get the money from while you're waiting. I'll circle back to the end and talk about some of the planning things we talk to clients about when we're doing planning and deciding when to begin benefits. Also, when you collect Social Security, you can collect it as a spouse or you can collect it on your own benefit. And what you're eligible for is 50% of your spouse's or your benefit, whichever is higher. So I'll do an example where your spouse has a $3,000 benefit and you have a $1,000 benefit. So when you file, you get your $1,000, but you also get another $500 of a spousal benefit to bring your benefit up to $1,500. $1,500 is 50% of your spouse's $3,000 benefit. These are monthly benefits I'm speaking of. So again, your benefit was 1,000. You get an extra 500 to bring you to 1,500 so that your benefit equals 50% of your spouse's. That is how spousal benefits work. If you're a deceased spouse, it's different. You don't get 50%. You get one or the other. You get yours or your deceased spouse's, whichever's higher. So in my example, if you had a spouse that had a $3,000 benefit, you were collecting $1,500, and that spouse passed away, you would step into that spouse's benefit and be able to collect $3,000 a month. So it's important to understand this because you are getting potentially a higher benefit if your spouse had higher, but you're not getting both. I've had clients ask me before, don't I get both for a period of time? No, it's just one benefit. If you get divorced, you also have some rights. If you've been married for at least 10 years, and you have not remarried before age 60, you can collect on your ex-spouse's benefit. I mean, it's the same thing. It's greater of yours or 50% of his or hers. Now, keep in mind, when you get divorced, if your spouse is not collecting benefits yet, you have to wait 2 years before you can begin. If he or she is already collecting, you can collect right away, again, as long as you were married for 10 years and you did not remarry before 60. Now, keep in mind, if you remarried before 60, you may be eligible for your new spouse's benefit, if that's useful. Also, there's a few other nuances to all these rules that I pointed out, but I'm speaking more big picture. We could be here for another hour if I went into every single nuance, if you have a minor child, if you're disabled. But these are the general rules for when your individual benefit, your spousal benefit, your widowed benefit, and your ex-spouse's benefit. I just want to point out, so these are big decisions to make. And it's tricky, especially if you have a couple, do you wait till 70 and let the benefit grow? And these are calculations we help our clients look at to see what's the best decision. Sometimes if you have a spouse with a much larger benefit, and that's the older spouse, and maybe they're not healthy, they don't have longevity in their family, we may encourage that spouse to wait as long as possible and let their benefit grow to that age 70 amount, because we're expecting that spouse to pass away first, and they had the higher benefit that's going to grow, maybe, right? Maybe by 24%. And then the widowed spouse that's left, the surviving spouse that's left, will step into a larger benefit because the other spouse waited a long time to collect. So these are the things we talk about when we're doing planning. And the other little topical thing I'll mention is the recent legislation, that bill that just passed, I guess about a month or so now, the One Big Beautiful Bill, is there's been talk about Social Security not being taxable. That's not actually correct. What it is for somebody who's 60, someone who's collecting, 65 or older, now has an additional standard deduction of $6,000 per person. So if somebody's collecting $50,000 of Social Security and that's their only income, they get to deduct an additional $6,000 on top of their other deductions. So it's not really pointed right to Social Security. It's just an additional deduction for people 65 or older. Keep in mind that this is an income phased out deduction. So if you make over $75,000 as an individual or $150,000 as a couple, you do not get this additional deduction. And lastly, this additional deduction right now is only in the law for 3 years, beginning in 2025, and then it goes away. So we'll see what happens, but I just wanted to point out that little nuance that it's been reported out a little differently in the news. So any questions, please reach out. You can find us at our website, crescentharborprivatewealth.com, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thanks so much.